Just give me a second, waiting for Adobe to get started. Yeah. Okay. So, what we're doing today is basically going to be divided into two types of things: things that we use quite often, right? And things that are not that important from an exam perspective. So, we'll always remember that whatever we're doing, it's always for a specific purpose, it's for the exam. And things that don't really fit well with that, we're going to deprioritize those things. So let's get started with some of the most important things, starting with nouns. Now, normally when we start studying about nouns, right, what do we learn? We are told that a noun is a person, place, animal, thing, idea, concept, right? That's how nouns are generally taught to us. And that is absolutely fine. So I have no problem with that definition. But on the GMAT, they'll never ask you directly what a noun is. Instead, they'll ask you to apply the ability to identify a noun. So that's what we'll also focus on. We're not that interested in exactly how to define a noun, but we are interested in recognizing nouns. Now, a very, very reliable test for nouns is something called the article test. The article test basically says that you have these words, right? They're called articles. Now, when we say articles, we mean these three words, a and the. Now, after these words, eventually you must get nouns. So you must get a noun after these words, a, an, and the. So if you're looking at a word and you want to check whether that word is capable of acting as a noun, what do? You place that word after an article. It doesn't have to be a specific article, it could be any of these articles. So look at it as a blank. So you have an article, a and then you've got a blank. If that word can fit into that blank, that's a great sign that you're looking at something that's capable of acting as a noun. This is a very reliable test. All right, I see Ankit's joined us. Good morning, Ankit. Yeah,
Morning, sir.
good morning, good morning. All right, the next uh, check over here is that you have these, let's say, all such a huge variety of words, right? That you can see. Awesome. I see Sharanya has also joined us and Ujali's also joined us. Good morning, guys. And yeah, we're going to take just a few words right now, right? So we're not going to uh, try a large number of words, but I just want you to get a feel for how this works. So let's try that with the article test. Very quickly, what is the article test? You take the word you're thinking about, like you're wondering, is this a noun or not, or is this capable of acting as a noun? And you place it after an article. Let's try the first one, decision, right? Now, if you look at the word decision, it might be like, yeah, somebody's deciding something. Is this an action? But if you put that word after a and the, you see that it is capable of being used in that position. The decision, a decision. So that means this word is capable of acting as a noun. And I'll keep repeating this word capable, right? And we'll discuss why I'm saying that again and again. So, decision is capable of acting as a noun. An opinion, that sounds fine. So, opinion is capable of acting as a noun. The information is acting as a noun. Now, the same thing, or pretty much the same thing, you can get with something called the possessive test. Now, you have these apostrophe S structures. Apostrophe S can be used or is used very commonly in English to form the contraction of a verb. So, for example, if I say he's walking to his office, right? He's walking to his office. Now, what is that apostrophe S doing over here? What does it mean in this sentence?
It's showing pronoun. Not
Sorry, Ankit, please go ahead.
Yeah, it is. He is walking. Actually, it is making walking, and with the help of the auxiliary verb, it is making as a verb. So he is walking. He is
That is
walking to his
correct.
office.
That is correct. Abhishek, please go ahead.
So it is acting as a verb here.
Right. It is a contraction of a verb, right? So the actual structure would be he is walking. And instead of saying he is walking, we're saying he's walking, right? Now, the thing is, again, don't worry about this right now. The thing is that apostrophe S to form the contraction is normally used in informal English. The bottom line is it's never seen on the GMAT. Apostrophe S to form the contraction, not going to happen. So when you see the apostrophe S on your GMAT, you can be very sure that you're looking at something called the possessive. The possessive basically means that you're looking at some sort of relationship between two things, usually that one of them belongs to the other. Now, let's apply that test. So, what I'm going to do is I recommend using some common possessives. Like there's this category of words called personal pronouns. I'm just going to take their possessive forms. Now, those possessive forms, they're very simple. His, her, my, their, its, right? That's it. His, her, my, their, its. That's it. Now, after these words, can I put the word that I'm thinking about? My decision, her opinion, his marriage, right? I can say these things. And therefore, it means that all these words that I'm looking at are capable of acting as nouns. Now, just a quick check over here. Let's summarize what have we discussed till now. We need to recognize certain things, right? Certain structures. Some are more important than others. So, for the guys who joined a little bit late, just keep this in mind. Some of these structures are more important than others from an exam perspective. Others may not be that important. So, whenever you see the word deprioritize or not important, you can kind of put that on the back burner. This is not going to be like the most important thing that you'll ever come across when you're preparing for the GMAT. But the first category we've started off with, nouns, this is one of the most fundamental types that we need to be aware of. How do we recognize whether a word is capable of acting as a noun? Try to put it after an article or try to put it after a possessive. Articles are a and possessives could be anything, but the ones we've gone with are his, her, my, their. But when we say anything, it could even be something like this. If I say Manoj, right? Manoj is a proper noun. But if I convert that into the possessive, Manoj's, right? Now that's a possessive. After this also, eventually I must get a noun. All right, quick check. Is everyone comfortable with this? Tests, ways to recognize nouns. All right, I've got a few yeses. Quick check, Sharanya Ujali, is this okay? Any doubts? You can always unmute yourself if you have any doubts. Awesome. Now let's move on to the next point of discussion, and that's countable nouns, countable and non-countable nouns. Now, this is going to be of some use on the GMAT. So the GMAT does test count and non-count nouns. Let's quickly understand what we mean by count and non-count nouns. So count noun is literally a noun that you can count. That's it. Nothing more complicated, nothing more to it than that. If you can count it, that's a countable noun. If you cannot count it, that's a non-countable noun. Now, take the example of a book. You can say one book. You can say two books. You can say one friend, two friends, one house, two houses, right? So, two things you'll notice here. First of all, you can attach a number to these things. Secondly, you can go plural, right? So, let me write that out. You can go plural. And the second part is also very important. You can go plural without changing the meaning. This is how you decide whether you're looking at a count noun or a non count noun. Let me explain this. One book, two books. Now you have more books, but basically you're looking at the same thing. 10 houses, 20 houses. Again, you just have more of the same thing. Nothing has changed fundamentally apart from the number. That's it. So going from the singular to plural, nothing fundamental has been changed in what you're looking at. But now take a look at a list of non count nouns. If you look at the word advice, right, or the word coffee or furniture or information or milk, money, water, you'll find that A, either you cannot go plural at all, right? So, for example, who says informations, right? We don't say informations, we don't say furnitures. So, one possibility is that, yeah, you can't even go plural on a non count noun. And that's a very good sign that it is a non count noun. So, you can't count this. You can't say one information, two informations, like that. Or the other possibility is you can go plural, but it will change the meaning. For example, take coffee or money or water. Now, quick check. How many of you have heard the word monies? Let me write that down. Monies. Monies. Okay, Ankit's not sure. Abhishek's heard of it. Rahul's not heard of it. Fair enough. Sharanya's heard the word. Ujali's heard it. And Manu's heard it colloquially. Okay, fine. Um, in case you've not heard it, it's going to sound super weird, right? But the reality is that there is a word monies. Oh, hang on, hang on. Okay, okay, forget money. Sorry, I could have taken a much better example. Um, coffees, coffees, yeah, coffees. Have you heard the word coffees? This one, I think would be a better example. Just let me know. I think this is what we should discuss. Okay, I think everyone is confirming this as a yes. Right. So everyone's heard it, right? So it may sound weird, yeah, but everyone's heard it. Now, here's the thing. When you say that I like coffee, right? What you're saying is you like that thing. You like coffee as a thing. But when you say the word coffees, it means something completely different. So, for example, you could say we'll have two coffees. So over there, what that means is you'll have two cups of coffee, right? It doesn't mean this the thing. What would you call it? The substance. So it doesn't mean coffee as a substance. It means two cups of coffee. Or you could say Sri Lanka exports many coffees, in which case coffees would mean varieties of coffees, right? So the point we're making is when you get a non count noun, either it's impossible to go plural on that thing, or if you go plural, it will change the meaning. So you cannot go plural on a non count noun without changing the meaning. This is the difference between count and non count nouns. Oh, we're almost done with nouns, but before we move on to pronouns, just quick check. Is everyone comfortable with our discussion on nouns?
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
If is the example you have quoted of Sri Lanka, you have said many copies. So many, I
Mhm.
think, goes with countable nouns. So
Right.
coffees. Okay, the coffees. Then coffees is countable, and coffee is non-countable, right?
Right. So it depends on what you mean by the word coffee. Let me give you one more example. Water. Now, water as we normally use it, right, is non count. But if I say something like this, the waters of the Indian Ocean. First of all, Ankit, let me check. Does this sound okay or does it sound weird?
It sounds okay.
Awesome. So the thing over here that I want to ask you is, does waters over here, when I go plural, right, on a word that I know is a non-count word, is it the same thing that I'm talking about?
No, we're not talking about water. The water is actually uh, waters is actually the substance. What we say. It is not actually exactly equivalent to water.
Right.
Water.
Yeah, I'll help you define the second one, but you're right. The first one is the substance. So when you say water, what is the substance? It's H2O, right? The waters means the body of water, right? So the point we're making is when you say coffees, right? You can say coffees, but you cannot say coffees if you want the original meaning of coffee. You get what I mean? As soon as you go into coffees, that means either you're talking about cups of coffee or varieties of coffee, but you're not talking about coffee as a substance. Quick check. Comfortable with this? Excellent. All right. Now the next one is pronouns. Pronouns are not super important for us to categorize. So I don't want you to put any special effort into memorizing this. I'm putting it over here because while you're preparing, you will almost certainly come across this at some point or the other, right? But it's not super important, not super immediate. So we're just going to go through it very quickly. You have things called subject pronouns. Subject pronouns would be pronouns that you would put in the subject position. So, for example, if you say, uh, one second, where's this gone? Yeah. So, if I say something like, she does her homework in the evenings, right? Over here, she is in the subject position, right? But if you look at this word, her, oh, yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay, no, let me start with the his example first. He does his homework, right? Now, he is in the subject position. His is something called the possessive form. I mean, possessive form of the pronoun, right? It means something belongs to him. Now, let's go back to the she does her homework example. The reason I just paused over there is for she, basically, her has two different ways of being used. So, for example, if you say, I met her versus I met him. Now, in some GMAT questions, you will have to see the difference between these two. So, if I say I met her, right, this her is not the same as the her homework her. So, if I say I met her, that's the object form. But she does her homework, her is the possessive form. Now, I'm not sure how important this is at this point, but just quick check. Are we okay with this? What we just discussed? Subject, object, possessive form? Otherwise, of course, I'll explain it in more detail. Okay, I've got a couple of yeses. Okay, people seem to be comfortable. Good, good, good. All right. The last one is reflexive. It's called reflexive. Don't waste any time remembering this word reflexive. Basically, we're saying that there is a self or a selves form of a pronoun. But as I said, pronouns are completely deprioritized right now. Naming the pronouns is usually not important. It will come in handy in just maybe a couple of things. You can always take a look at this later on in your prep. You don't need it at the beginning of your prep. Let's move on to adjectives, which is another major type. First of all, let's understand what an adjective is. An adjective is an element that describes a noun. So it'll provide you some kind of information about a noun. It'll typically tell you which noun you're looking at, what kind of noun you're looking at, or the number or the how many nouns you're looking at. Now, how do you recognize adjectives? Again, as we said earlier, the GMAT's never going to ask you theory like, oh, define an adjective. No, it's going to ask you to apply that. So you're going to need to recognize adjectives. A very, very reliable test, because adjectives and nouns are so closely related, a very reliable test is to just modify your noun test. Now, when we say modify your noun test, let's quickly repeat, let's say, one of the noun tests. One of the noun tests was the article test, a and the something. Modify it. You expect a noun over here, right? Ask yourself, can you put the word that you're thinking about in between your noun test? If you can, that word is most likely capable of acting as an adjective. Small example, a quick decision. So you can say a decision, right? Like we did earlier. A decision. Decision is a noun. Can you put the word you're thinking about in the middle of that construction? A quick decision. Quick is an adjective because you can put it in the middle of a decision. Similarly, an unbiased opinion. You can say an opinion. You can put unbiased in the middle of an opinion. So you've got a word that you can put in between your noun test. That means it's capable of acting as an adjective. The valuable information. Information is a noun, valuable is an adjective. Now, you're not limited to your article test. You can use your possessive test also. So you can say his marriage, marriage is a noun. You can say his recent marriage, recent, therefore, is capable of acting as an adjective. People's personal preferences. So you've got another possessive over here, you've got a noun, you've got something in between your noun. That's how we test for adjectives. Now, please note, you don't have to use all of these, like a and the, his, her, my, their, its. If even one of them works, that's a pretty good sign that you're looking at something that's capable of acting as an adjective. All right. Now, one last thing about adjectives. Um, Again, this is not super important in the beginning, but later on you may want to use it. There are 3 degrees of comparison when it comes to adjectives. You don't need to remember the terms degree of comparison or basic degree or the superlative degree. You don't need to remember these terms, but we should at least understand what happens when we use them. So, I want you to take a look at this sentence. They are dependable, right? This is in something called the basic degree. You've just got the adjective there. There's nothing extra that you're doing with the adjective. You just have it there. Now, what is the basic degree used for? The basic degree is used to show that something has a quality, or it is used to show basically the equal to relationship. So let me put that down. Either the fact that the quality exists or an equal to relationship. So they are dependable is just telling you that, oh yeah, this is like, yeah, this is just true about them. That's it. They are as dependable as we are is that equal to thing that we were talking about. Now, this means that you're looking at an X. What do I mean by X? If you say they are as dependable as we are, basically we are 1x and they are 1x, equal. If we say they are twice as dependable as we are saying they are 2x and we are 1x. Similarly, if we say they are thrice as dependable, basically what you're saying is you're taking something that's the same and then you're multiplying it twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times, like that. But if you, a lot of these adjectives go into that ER form, right? ER. She is wiser than her parents. This is used when you want to compare 2 things. Now, she and her parents. Obviously, her parents would be 2 people on their own, but as a group, we are comparing she with her parents. So she is the first thing, parents, the group is the second thing. And finally, the last one, when you're trying to say that something is the highest, right? This will normally be in the EST form or with the word most. So there, what you're meaning is this is the highest or this is the most. So he is the most aggressive salesperson in the company. You're not just saying one is more than the other. You're just saying this is the most possible. So in whatever context you're looking at, this is the highest possible degree. Quick check. Is everyone comfortable with the points we discussed under adjectives? Awesome. I've received, I think, 4 yeses. Uh, all right. Abhishek's also good with this. Sharanya, is this okay? Excellent. All right, guys. Now let's come to the third one, which is verbs. So these three are big ones: nouns, adjectives, and verbs. Right? Everything else will be different degrees of usefulness, but these three are fundamental. Let's start with verbs. Now, usually, when you're trying to recognize a verb, a piece of advice that a lot of people will give you is a verb is an action. So look for an action within a sentence. But for us, that action categorization is not important. So, yeah, many verbs are actions, but that's not going to really help us from an exam perspective. So, if possible, I would request you to leave the action definition out of your understanding of verbs. So, then the question arises, well, how do we recognize a verb, right? Now, you recognize whether a word is capable of acting as a verb by combining it with a simple subject. Let me give you an example. If I give you the word play, right, and you want to check whether the word play is capable of acting as a verb, you combine it with a simple subject. If you wanted, you could combine it with any subject you want. But just to keep things simple, we'll combine it with a simple subject. Examples of simple subjects: he, she, it, they. These are simple subjects. They are all we need. We don't need anything else. So, can I say he play? I can't. Maybe I have to modify the verb a little bit for subject verb agreement. He plays, she plays, it plays, and I can say they play. So, because I can combine that word with a simple subject and I get something which sounds complete, we've got a word that is capable of acting as a verb. Now, just a very quick point. Some verbs are transitive verbs. Transitive means they take objects. Object means something that the action is being performed on. So, for example, if you say, "I uh, I destroy." Uh, okay, no. And now I'm wondering, what do I destroy? I destroy, let's say, buildings, right? Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't come up with a better example. I had no idea what I destroy. Oh, hang on. Quick check, audio check, guys. Please let me know. Okay, so Ujali, I think again we're having that slight issue between Adobe, and sometimes it just happens. I'm not sure if you can still hear me though. Once, yeah, I think that'll be best. Although I'm pretty sure Ujali can't hear me. Fair enough. All right, guys. So for now, let's continue. When we say I destroy buildings, right? Buildings is something called the object of the verb. Now, object means the action that it's performed on. And a verb that takes an object is called a transitive verb. Now, that is why is that relevant to what we were just discussing? It's relevant because when you say something like I play, right? You may get the feeling that this is incomplete. So let me repeat the point that we're discussing. The point is that you can check whether a word is capable of acting as a verb by combining it with a simple subject and checking whether it sounds relatively complete. So the bottom line is, to make it actually sound complete, you may have to add another word. So when you say I play, you may get the impression that this is not really complete. How do you do that? You may have to add another word. You may have to say something like, I play football. Why does this happen? Because some verbs need something after them, right? But the point we're trying to make is to check whether a word is capable of acting as a verb, you combine with a simple subject and see whether it sounds relatively complete. That's the rule. To make it sound fully complete, you may have to add another word. All right. Another way to check whether a word is capable of acting as a verb is to check whether it has an ing form. If the word has an ing form, that means it's most likely capable of acting as a verb. Now, let's take some examples over here. We've got two examples up over here, amusing and exciting. Now, what are the base forms from which I have derived these forms? What are the base forms we're looking at over here?
uh, amuse and excite.
Absolutely. So, our rule is that amuse and excite are capable of acting as verbs because they can take the ing form. Just remember, our rule is not that the ing form is a verb. Remember? So, in the previous class, we discussed that ing forms are never verbs on their own. So, ing itself is not a verb, but if a word can take an ing form, that means it is capable, most likely, capable of acting as a verb. All right. Now, we discussed transitive and intransitive, but frankly speaking, that those terms are not important. So we will limit ourselves to only those terms that are like truly helpful when we're preparing. So transitive and intransitive, not that important. Please feel free to forget about these terms if you want. Now let's come to is and was. This is important. We will come back to is and was. So this is important for parallelism, actually. That's why we'll come back to it, but let's have an initial discussion right now. Now, is and was are forms of a verb called be. So there's a verb called be. It has many different forms. Is, am, are, was, were. There are two more forms. But the point is and was are forms of be. They are very common words. They can act as two types of verbs. So, is and was, let me write that down over here. Is and was can be two types of verbs. They can be linking verbs or they can be helping verbs. Now, what's a helping verb? A helping verb combines with another verb form to create the actual verb. So, whenever you say something like, do we have an example here? Yeah, he is playing football. Now, when you say he is playing football, right, you don't ask yourself, hey, what's the action over here? And that's the verb. Because if you ask yourself, what's the action over here? You'll probably say, oh, playing is the action. But hold on. So, playing is not the verb over here. And as we've discussed, INGs are never verbs on their own. So, what's happening over here is you have a helping verb, is. Is a helping verb. And it's combining with that ING, and together they're creating the actual verb. What's the actual verb? The actual verb is playing. That's one way to use is. The other way, and the only other way to use is as something called a linking verb. So anytime you use is when it is not a helping verb, you are using it as a linking verb. When you use is as a linking verb, there are two possibilities. Either you are specifying something or you're not specifying something. The specifying one is important for us in parallelism. We will discuss this in that session. But for now, I just want you to remember that the verbs is and was can play two roles. They can either be helping verbs or they can be linking verbs. They are helping verbs if they combine with something else. And if they're not combining with something else, they are linking verbs. Beyond that, we will take in the session on parallelism. For now, let me confirm, are we okay with the fact that is and was can be two things? Helping, linking. Helping, they combine with something. and linking when they're not combining. That's what I wanted to check. Are we comfortable with this part, please? Okay, I've got a couple of yeses. Guys, if you have doubts, please unmute your microphone. You're welcome to. Okay, I've got three yeses. Let me check.
I
Manu and Sharanya. Yeah, Sharanya, go ahead.
I'm still confused with the linking and helping verbs. Can you go over it again?
Right, right. So you have these super common verbs, right? Is and was. When you see them in a sentence, they may be occurring with another verb form. Like you see in this sentence, playing, right? Now, when that happens, they are called helping verbs, as in we are looking at their names. So they are called helping verbs. A helping verb combines with the other verb form, and together the helping and the other verb form, together they form an actual verb. So in the sentence, he is playing football, we don't say that is the verb or playing is the verb. We say that is playing is the verb, right? Quick check. Are we comfortable till here?
Yes.
Awesome. Now, anytime you use is as anything other than a helping verb. See, when it's a helping verb, it'll be helping something else. So when we say that you use it as anything else, what we mean is you use it alone, right? You see that, right? So if it's with something else, it's helping, and if it's not helping, it's linking. So, but if it's not helping, means it's not with something else, which means it's alone. I should have actually made that clear. So, when you see is with something else, it's a helping verb. But when you see is used alone, it's a linking verb. That's what we've discussed till now. Beyond that, don't worry, that we'll take in the class on parallelism, because one type of is something called a parallelism marker. Sharanya, quick check. Awesome. Manu, please go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
An example of a linking verb sentence could be he is playing. That would be a linking verb example. Or
No,
uh,
that would be a helping verb. Is would be a helping verb because it's combining with playing.
okay, can you give an example of a linking verb?
Think of any sentence in which you're using is but not combining it with any other verb form. For example, if I say today is Sunday,
Okay,
okay?
got it.
If I say you are, okay, are we've not discussed. For example, if I say he is my friend,
Got it.
right? So there the is not combining with anything else. That makes it a linking verb.
Got it. Got it.
Okay, excellent. Ujali, I think you're back. If you can hear me, just unmute yourself. Let me know. Give me a yes. Oh, I think Ujali's microphone is, or the audio is still not working. Hmm. I will have to think about perhaps a workaround for this because I think in the previous session, Sharanya faced this issue and now Ujali is facing it. Hmm. Fair enough. I'll put some thought into it from my side. For now, I want us to also think about something called a main verb. Now, when you see a verb combining with a subject, right? Small example. He plays football. Guys, just give me 1 second, please. I'll just quickly check if there's something we can do for Ujali. All right, guys. So let's continue. Yeah, well, it's usually the internet connection. It may not even be a problem with your internet connection. It's actually the path that matters. The path between Adobe and your internet connection. That is what sometimes, for whatever reason, just kind of drops out. Um, I think that's because usually when it happens, it's a temporary thing. When somebody logs back in, it's usually working. But in this case, I think Ujali is not able to, even when she logs back in, she's not able to hear me. So it really could be anything. And I'm not 100% sure about what's causing this. But okay, let's continue. Yeah, if I say he plays football, right? He plays. Oh, that's actually a good point. She can connect using a phone because this works on anything phone, iPad. But yeah, I mean, different ways, maybe one of them will work. Um, so I wanted to run something by you guys a little bit later, and maybe now might just be a good time to do that. So we have Google also as a provider. So Google has this Google Meet thing. They tell us that we can, host presentations on that. So I was thinking maybe we could give that also a shot. If we can put it in place, I'll let you guys know. But in between or in the meantime, if any of you have experience with Google Meet, because I've never used it, you just feel free to drop me a message and let me know whether it's reliable or whether it's useful, or whether you've had a good experience with it. uh, Let me know, because that'll help us, and we can, because we have that thing. It's a part of our email providing, whatever the email thing is, they give us the Meet thing also with that, so we could as well use that. All right, so he plays football, right? Now when you see this and you're comfortable saying that plays is a verb, at the same time, you could call plays an action verb, right? You could call it an action verb if you want, but you could also call it a main verb. Now, what's a main verb? Main verb is just a piece of terminology. We'll use it sometimes, and that's why I just want to introduce it right now. A main verb is anything that combines with your subject to form the clause. A clause is a subject verb combination. It's what we're supposed to study in our next session. But a main verb is something that is capable of combining with a subject. That's all. We're not specifying whether it's an action verb or a linking verb. A main verb is whatever combines with your subject. So, for example, he plays football. Plays is a main verb. If I say he is playing, then what is the main verb, please? We have two different types of answers. Oh, Ujali, if the video is also not visible, it's definitely an internet issue. So what that means is you are desynchronizing. Um, Now, this is just a quick point for all of you. At any point, if you want to check your connection, right, on the top right of your screen, you can press that button, that signal bars, the 5 signal bars or 4 signal bars. Just go ahead and press it right now. If it is all green, it's usually a good thing. But the more specific things you can check are latency and packet loss. Latency means the delay between your it's a delay between your internet and Adobe. So for example, I get between 150 170 milliseconds. This is pretty good. If you get anything like 500 600 700 800 1000, it means there's a massive delay. Something is going wrong. And if your packet loss goes up, yeah, it means it's a kind of lag between what's happening. So everything is delayed. Packet loss means you are actively losing information. Every time you connect to Adobe, something is being lost in the process. So, just a quick thing, anytime that starts happening, the first thing you should do is try to switch your internet connection. The second thing you can try to do is log back in. That forces it to resynchronize. So, in case you've lost synchronization, you'll have to log back in and resynchronize. All right. Now, coming back, there were two answers I got. One answer was is, and the other one is playing. Manu, you gave me the first answer. Could you walk me through your reasoning?
I think is the main verb because is uh, helping the not the main verb playing. So that's how I thought about it.
Okay, so the thing to remember over here is a helping verb, right?
Yes.
It helps another verb form,
Yeah.
but can that other verb form alone support the subject?
No.
Right. Now, what that means is it's not a main verb.
Right.
A main verb has to be capable of combining with the subject to give you like a complete thought.
Got it.
So the actual verb over here is playing. That's the
Right.
main verb, right? Because is playing together can combine with he. All right. Okay, so I think we've got this also. Now, there are a few verbs that I've left over here for you to memorize later. You can do that whenever you want, whenever you're comfortable. This is not something you have to do right now. So all I've done over there is I've given you a list of be forms. Remember, there's this verb called be. It has 8 different forms. I've given you a list of be forms, and I've given you a list of verbs that can be helping verbs. So memorization can happen later. It doesn't have to happen right now. So some helping verbs can, may, might, could, should, would, will, shall, things like that. Now we're going to try to apply what we've been discussing. So now it's going to be over to you guys. The first one, so we're going to be doing two things. There's a small quiz that we're going to work ourselves up to, work our way up to. But right now, what I want is I want you to pick one verb out of these two verbs, do and have. Let me erase whatever I've written. So do and have. Pick one verb and then make two sentences. So in the first sentence, whatever verb you've picked needs to act as a helping verb. In the second sentence, it needs to act as a main verb. That is, it needs to alone support the subject. It should not combine with anything else. Please start. Of course, if you want to clarify the question or your task, please feel free to unmute your mic and ask me. Let me quickly repeat. Pick any one verb out of these two verbs, do or have, and make two sentences with that verb. In one sentence, that verb should be a helping verb. In the other sentence, it should be the main verb. Take 20-30 seconds. When you guys are ready, I'll ask you to unmute yourselves and give me your examples. I see that some of you are done and you've put your examples up also. Take a little more time. Once everyone's done, I'll basically ask you guys to give me your reasoning, give me your examples, and give me your reasoning. Rahul, how does it feel to have classes after so many years in the mornings?
So it's not that new. I've already studied this for GMAT, so I was having classes already for quant.
Okay. Otherwise, what happens is people have been so out of touch with studies that it's like, oh God, I have to get back on, that studying path.
Yes, morning classes are happening after a while, so it's a good change.
Mhm.
My sleep pattern is improving.
That's awesome. I know that many people, when they take their exams, they book 8 o'clock slots or 9 o'clock slots, and normally they wake up around 11 a.m. or 12 a.m. So it's a challenge for them. But you're right; you have to absolutely adjust to that, in case your exam is also at around the same time. So Rahul, what I wanted to ask you is, you've given us a couple of examples. Could you walk us through this?
Okay, in the first case, I have classes in the morning.
Hmm.
Here, have is not having any helping verb preceding it, so that's why it's the main verb here. And in
Hmm.
the next one, I've used he is having a class, so is the helping verb here, and without that helping verb, the sentence sounds awkward. So that is actually required in the sentence.
Good. So in the second one, is the helping verb, and we've not discussed this yet. But having is something called a present participle. Again, I don't I don't expect you guys to have categorized this because we've not even discussed it. But you're right. In the first one, have is the main verb. In the second one, it's not a main verb. Right? Is the helping verb. Agreed?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. All right. Abhishek, I have a pen. Abhishek, could you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. Walk us through your examples.
Sir, I have a pen in this
Hmm.
sentence. Uh, have is a main verb,
Right.
and I have known him for 10 years. Have known is a helping verb.
Have known is not a helping verb.
No,
Have is the helping verb.
have is the helping verb.
Very good. So have known is the main verb.
Yes, sir.
Have is a helping verb.
Yes, sir.
And known is that other verb form. The name for it is a past participle. Again, I don't want you to categorize that into that yet because we've not discussed it. All right, good. Ankit, please go ahead.
Hello. In the
Yeah,
first sentence, they have been acting like this before. So have been acting acts as a helping verb.
just 1 second. Sorry. Abhishek, echo. We're getting echo. Yeah, go ahead, Ankit.
In the first sentence, they have been acting like this before. Have been acting acts like an helping verb.
Hmm.
So have acts like an helping verb. And the
Hmm.
second sentence, they have an appointment with doctor. So have is a main verb.
Very good, because it is alone supporting the subject, right?
Yeah.
Good. Sharanya, please go ahead. Walk us through your examples.
The first one, he is a hairstylist. Is acting as the main verb, like a linking verb.
Right. So is the main verb. It is a linking verb. It is the main verb, but it is not a has or have, right? So you've given me the right thing. It's just that you've used a verb
Okay.
different from the ones in the example.
Okay.
So to fix it, we could fix it easily. We could say something like, he has a hairstylist. That's it.
Yeah,
Done.
he has a hairstylist.
All right. Second one.
He has been racing for years.
Hmm.
So has been is the verb.
Has been racing is the verb.
Okay, has been racing. Okay.
But your example is fine in the sense that in the second one, has is a helping verb.
Mm.
Okay, good. Manu, please go ahead.
So I use the word do to make
Hmm.
sentences. The first one is I do dishes alone. Do is the main verb, uh, and
That's spot on.
and in the second one, I am doing dishes now. Am doing is the uh, helping verb, and doing I think is the main verb.
All right, that's correct. Now, am is the helping verb. You're right. Am is the helping verb, and am doing is the main verb.
Main verb, yes.
As I said, doing is something called a present participle. We've not discussed that.
Yeah.
So, just a quick Question, and this is open to anyone in the class. Can we make a sentence in which do is a helping verb?
Sir,
Hmm.
I do read daily.
I do.
Read daily.
Uh, I can't make out. Just say that again.
I do read newspaper daily.
Got it. So I do read newspapers daily. Correct. So I do read. Do read is the verb, and do is the helping verb. Quick check. Is everyone comfortable with this? Okay, I've got 3 yeses. Sharanya is also comfortable. Good, good. And Manu? Sorry, Manu said yes. Perfect. Now, I think we're ready to move on to our quiz. So let's do that now. Now, I'm going to give you guys a few words, right? Now, these 3 categories are important for us. We're going to try our best to. Sharanya, you're not muted right now. In case you're having a personal conversation, you may want to mute your microphone. All right. So, these 3 categories are important for us, and I'm going to quiz you on that. So, no problem. No problem. So, let's write those categories down: noun, adjective, verb, and yeah, your first word is chair. Now, please take your time. Don't write your answers out, right? Don't write your answers in the chat window. You can write done if you want. And once we are done, I will call on one of you randomly to walk us through this. Please go ahead. Okay, I see that 2 people are done. Let's hold on a bit more. Also, just in case I wasn't very clear about this. So the task is to check how many categories or which categories this word can fall in under. So remember, it could be 1 category, it could be 2 categories, could be 3 categories. I will not give you any examples that don't fall under any of these categories, but yeah, it could be 1 or more. Okay, I think let's get started. Abhishek, would you like to try this?
So I think so. Chair acts as a noun. One chair,
Okay.
two chair.
Okay, good. You give me an example also. Do you think it can act as any other category?
I think sir, it can act as a verb.
Give me an example.
He chairs the
Hmm.
he chairs the
Guys, let's help him finish the sentence. What can we finish it with? I think Manu's got a suggestion. Chairs the board, right? Chairs the meeting. Perfect. So we've got the right classification over here. The classification is chair can be a noun, it can be a verb. Now, how do you know it can be a noun? As Abhishek pointed out, you can say one chair, two chairs. It's a thing, right? Another way you can do this is using the test that we discussed. So the article test, a chair, the chair, the possessive test, my chair, your chair. So that's one way to do it. How do you check whether chair is capable of acting as a verb? You assign it a simple subject. He chairs. And he chairs obviously sounds completely wrong, but that's because chair is a transitive verb. He chairs, you have to specify something like what does he chair? So he chairs meetings, he chairs the board, right? Means he heads it. Perfect. Oh, yeah, one small thing. Chairs is not really an adjective, right? Chairs is not an adjective, but it is possible to use nouns as adjectives. So let me give you an example. The sofa cover. Now, normally you'd say sofa is a noun, right? It's a thing. You can say the sofa, your sofa. But the sofa cover over here, what's happening is sofa is still a noun, but it is being used as an adjective for the noun cover. So it's describing which cover you're talking about. Quick check. Is everyone comfortable with this? That although sofa is not a noun, it can be, it's not an adjective. It can be used as an adjective. The noun itself can always be used as an adjective. Excellent. I've got 3 yeses on this. Good. Good. 4 yeses. Sharanya, this is okay? Awesome. Now for the next one. The same thing. Please go ahead. Let me know when you're done, and I will ask one of you randomly to explain this. I see that 2 people have mentioned that they've completed this. I am going to give you a little more time. Okay, Sharanya's also done. So what I was going to say is I am going to give you a little more time. So I do want you to put your thought process together over here. Make sure that you are picking this for the right reasons. Just remember, whatever you're doing, try to apply the rules that we've discussed. If you're not sure what it falls under, just try to apply those rules. Okay, Rahul's also done. All right. So we are going to randomly pick the person in the middle. Sharanya, that's you. Go ahead.
Light can be noun, adjective, and a verb. For example, light is quantifiable, so you can put it under the nouns. Adjective
Can
because you
you can you quantify light? Oh, give me an example in which you
can
quantify light.
3 lights, 4 lights.
Okay, like a tube light or a bulb or
Yeah,
something, right? Okay, fair enough. Yeah, light
and
is enough.
the adjective you can add an ing form. For example, he is
Mhm.
lighting the lamp.
So remember that is the test for verbs.
Verbs. Okay.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, the answer is that it can be a verb. What about adjective?
Um, I'm
Or
not
not
sure.
sure?
Yeah.
Not sure? No problem. All right. The question passes to Manu.
I think light can be used in adjective as well.
Example.
Uh, the bright light in the room lit up the surrounding.
That's a very nice sentence. Let me write it out. The
The bright
bright
light
light
in
lit
the
up.
room
I'll
lit
just
up the
skip
room.
in the room for now.
Yeah.
Lit up the room or lit the room up. All right. So we have two versions of light over here, light and lit. What do we think? Or not sure?
I think it should be light is an adjective. We talk about the bright light that lit
Do
up the room.
you remember the noun test? What is the noun test? Let me remind you. The noun test,
It,
one of them is article. Can you place that word after an article, a and the?
yeah,
The other one is the possessive one. Can you use it after a possessive?
yeah,
Right? And what's the test for adjectives? You modify the noun test. You try to put that word in between your noun test.
yes.
So, can you say the light?
The light, no.
The light of the sun?
Yes.
Right. So, you can say the light, right?
Yeah,
Like, I saw a light, or there is a light at the end of the tunnel, or something like that, right? So, what that tells us is light is capable of acting as a noun.
right.
Now, look at the structure. You've got a noun test, the light. But in between the noun test, you have another word, bright. So, what test are we now looking at? We're looking at the adjective test.
Yes.
So, bright would be
Bright would be the adjective.
absolutely. It's capable of being positioned between your noun test,
Yeah,
right? So, light is a noun, not an adjective, because bright is an adjective here.
right.
Okay, good. All right. Guys, anyone for examples of light as an adjective? I see. Abhishek has already given us an example. It is correct. He has a light suitcase. Yes. So, light as the opposite of heavy, like light suitcase, light music, or light color, right? So, a light color. Color is the noun. Um, so, good. So, light is capable of acting as an adjective as well. Perfect. So, we've got the right categorization over here. Let's do one last word. Please go ahead. Let me know when you're done, and I'll call on one of you. I see a couple of you are done. We'll take a little more time on this. All right, guys, let's start. So we're going to start with Ankit. Ankit, please go ahead.
So, like can be used as a verb. He likes chocolate. Like,
Good.
and it can be used as an noun also. His like of chocolate is unworthy.
His like of chocolate?
Yeah.
Normally you would say his liking of chocolate, but your broader point is correct. Like can be a noun. So,
Mm,
noun and verb?
yeah.
Fair enough. Now, I think a very common context in which we hear like used as a noun is, anytime on social media, wherever you, whenever you hear people saying, I got 10 likes, right? Can you give me a like, right? That's a noun because you've said a like or 10 likes or 20 likes, whatever. That's a noun. And as Ankit mentioned, like is a verb. Anytime you say, I like burgers, I like pizzas, like is a verb. Now, quick check. Would anyone like to add anything over here, or are we in complete agreement?
So for a sentence like he is like a father
Mhm.
too, uh, then in what context we are using like here? I'm not sure.
Yeah, like over there is a preposition, unfortunately.
Okay.
Okay. So, like can be beyond what we are discussing in these three categories. Like can play many roles. Um, yeah, it's a very flexible word. Okay, so I think we are mostly agreed over here that like is a noun and it's a verb. Um, the third one, adjective, is a little challenging. When we use like with a noun to describe the noun, have you heard people say something like the cars are of like make, or we are of, yeah, this is a slightly better example. We are of like mind. We are of like mind. Anyone feel that this sentence sounds okay? We are of like mind. So Manu, does it sound okay? Meaning you don't have to worry about. Okay, Abhishek says it sounds okay. Like-minded, yeah, that's exactly what we're getting at. Manu says sounds okay. Okay, Sharanya, sounds okay or not sure? Not sure. Fair enough. So when you say we are of like mind, right? What you mean is we have the same opinion, or basically we are like minded. Basically, we are thinking in the same direction. We are agreed. That's what we are of like mind means. So this is of course super uncommon. So it's very hard to spot. But yeah, like can be an adjective as well. All right. Now I'm gonna ask. So I'm gonna open this up to you guys. We're gonna do this once more. Um, I'm gonna pick someone from the class. That person will have to come up with a word, right? And then as a class, you guys have to categorize it. So in the chat window, you'll have to write down something, some role that it can play, and you'll have to write a sentence also to support that. So let's be clear. I will pick one person. That person will give all of us a word. Then you guys will figure out which categories that word can fall under. And then you will write one of those categories and you will write an example, whatever you think it can fall under. Okay. The person we're picking is Rahul. Rahul, you'll have to pick a word, any word that comes to your mind, and you'll have to give it to the class.
Okay, then the word is phone.
Phone, go
Yes.
ahead, write it in the chat window. Okay, everyone, please get started. And once you're done, write one of your categories and write an example that tells us how you arrived at that answer. Ankit, write a quick sentence also. His phone is dirty. Okay, okay. So, Ankit's kind of established that phone is a noun. Now, the rest of the class, please focus on the other categories. Check. Is there one or more category left that we can categorize this word into? So, Ankit's example falls directly into our test, possessive test. Okay, now we're getting another category, verb. This one I think would be very common. His phones me directly. Yeah, he phones. He phones. He phones him daily. He phones me directly. Perfect. So phones is a verb there. Can phone be an adjective? Any opinions? Any thoughts?
So the word phony, is it
Mhm.
related to this word phone?
No, it's a different word. It's an adjective or a noun, right? So it's a different word. But yeah, in English, so many words are like very similar to each other. Okay, so I'm not getting a positive response on this. Means I think most of you agree that phone cannot be an adjective, in which case you are right. Phone cannot be an adjective unless you use the noun as an adjective. So anytime you say something like the phone charger, right? The phone charger. What you're doing is you're using a noun as an adjective. It's possible, but yeah, phone does not have any special meaning as an adjective. Okay, awesome. So well done. So I think you guys did well over here. Now, why did we do this? We did this so that you really understand that just knowing these tests is not enough. You have to apply them to see what role that word is playing in the context of the question that you have. Now, in terms of what we need to do or where we need to go with this knowledge, uh, we do need to learn to apply it. We need to learn to apply it quickly. And in later sessions, we'll apply it in bigger constructions. So on the GMAT, sometimes you'll be tested like what we are doing right now, which is on a word level. But more often, you will be tested with multiple words. So that's something, of course, that we need to look at. All right. Now, there's a ton of stuff ahead of us. Some of it is deprioritized, so I don't want you to worry about it. Some of it, however, is relevant. Let's go with adverbs. So we did adjectives. Adjectives describe nouns. Adverbs describe everything other than nouns. Now, for everything on the left hand side, right? So, whatever we discussed on the right hand side is fundamental. We need to start applying it immediately. Whatever we have on the left hand side is something we'll build up to. So what we're doing in today's session, it's, let's say, like the first step. There are other things, more discussions that we'll need to have to really cement our understanding of everything on the left hand side. This is something that will happen over a few sessions. So don't prioritize this right now. That said, let's get going. Adverbs. What's the role of an adverb? An adverb is supposed to describe a noun. Anything other than a noun. So that would mean it can describe another adverb, it can describe an adjective, it can describe a verb, or it can describe an entire subject verb combination. Now, obviously, some adverbs will be limited in what they can describe, but whatever an adverb describes will be one or more of these things. So you might have noticed that I have not put verb at the top. And the reason for this is very simple. Normally, when I ask people, after a few sessions, what's an adverb? They tell me it's something that describes a verb. An adverb can describe a verb, but remember, it's not limited to verbs. Adverbs can describe everything other than nouns. That's how you should remember it. So for nouns, you use adjectives. For anything else, you use adverbs. Now, how do you go about recognizing an adverb? A very common test is the so called ly test. The ly test says, hey, if that word ends in ly, it's an adverb. Right? But this is not super reliable. Let me give you an example. If I say forcefully, this word ends in ly. This word is an adverb. So let's put a tick mark next to it. But let's take another example. Let's take heavenly. Heavenly ends in ly. But what type of word do you think heavenly is? Yeah, that's absolutely right, Manu. It's an adjective because you can use heavenly with a noun. You can say the heavenly music or the heavenly food, right? So heavenly is an adjective, even though it ends in ly. This ly thing, I mean, you can know it, but I don't want you to rely on it, right? Okay. A better way to do this is to ask yourself, hey, am I getting some information about location, about time, about the degree of something? Degree means the extent of something or the way something is done, manner. That's one way to do it. Another way is to translate that categorization into specific words. So, location, time, degree, manner, how, when, where, why, how often, and how much. Right? So, you could translate it into these words and use these words to check, okay, am I getting some information about why? Am I getting some information about when? Am I getting some information about where? That is also a nice way to check for adverbs. Again, so what we're doing over here is we have multiple things over here because none of them is complete on its own, right? Let's do that. Let's start. She ran quickly. This one is for Rahul. Rahul, what's the adverb here? You can unmute yourself or you can type it in the chat window, whatever you're comfortable with. Go ahead.
Here, I think the ly test is reliable because quickly is clearly the adverb.
Why is quickly an adverb?
Because it's describing how she ran.
Good. All right. Second one. This one goes to Abhishek. Abhishek, what is the adverb in the next sentence?
So tomorrow.
Very good. Why?
So it tells the time when we will play football.
Excellent. Yes, that is how we think about it. So, tomorrow is normally used as a noun. For example, if you say, mm, tomorrow will be a good day, right? Tomorrow is a noun over there. But in this sentence, tomorrow is an adverb because it's not telling you what you will play. You are not saying you will play something called tomorrow. Instead, the thing that you will play, the object, the so called object, right? The thing that you will play is football. And tomorrow is telling you when the playing will happen. That makes it an adverb. Good. Now, the next sentence. This one goes to Manu. What's the adverb in the next one, please?
Outside is the adverb
Very good. Why?
because describes the location, like where are you putting the book?
Good. It's telling you where the action's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right. The next one is for Ankit. No, hang on, Ankit. Ankit, would you be comfortable taking the next one?
Hello.
Yeah, Ankit, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
S-
I'm not very sure, sir.
yeah, no, hold on. So, yeah, this is, I have to take this one actually, because I've not discussed anything like this. So, my apologies. I realized it as soon as I saw the sentence. Um,
But is hungry the
hmm.
adverb here? Because it's describing why he ate the pizza.
Now you're getting closer to the answer, but let me give you a slightly different sentence. If I say I am happy, right? What would you say happy is? Sharanya?
Happy
Hmm.
is a verb.
The verb over here is am.
Okay.
Remember,
Adjective.
is, am, are, was, were. Yeah, I think somebody mentioned adjective. That is right. Happy is an adjective. Similarly, so why is it an adjective? Because it's describing a noun. I mean, over here we have a pronoun, but in our classes we typically don't differentiate between nouns and pronouns. Um, I am happy is describing me, right, as a person. So happy is an adjective. Similarly, I am hungry. Hungry is also an adjective. It's describing me. There's no action being performed. Am is the verb. Right? If you say he is hungry, I am hungry, hungry, she is hungry. Hungry is an adjective. But when you attach the word because to it, and you take this entire collection of words, because I am hungry, this entire group of words acts as an adverb. For what? For something called a clause. Now, I know we've not discussed this word clause till now, but a clause is a subject verb combination. So, over here, we are getting the reason for something. What is the thing that we are getting a reason for? We are getting a reason for a clause. This, yes, I ate a pizza will be the clause. So, this is something called an independent clause. But hold on. Clauses are for our next session. Right now, what I want you to do is just think about it. What are we getting the reason for? Are we getting a reason for a noun? That is the pizza because I was hungry? No, the pizza is not because I was hungry. I am not because I was hungry. Instead, I ate a pizza because I was hungry, right? This reason that we're getting is for an entire thought. I ate a pizza. Quick check. Are we comfortable with this? Okay, I've got 2 or 3 yeses, 4 yeses. Okay, Sharanya's dropped out. Fair enough. All right, good. Now, the next one goes to Ankit. Ankit, what is the adverb that we can see here?
It is frequently.
Okay, what is it describing?
It is describing quite frequently how often the computer crashes. Matlab, it's done. It's quite
Okay.
frequently.
And what type of word is quite?
Uh, Crashes. My computer crashes quite. Quite is. My computer crashes quite frequently. Actually, quite frequently will be an adverb.
Very good. But within quite frequently, do you want to take a guess on what quite is or not sure?
I think it is an adjective.
Fair enough. So I'd like you to unpack your logic, right? So you started by telling me that frequently is an adverb, right? And then you told me it's because it's telling you how often the computer crashes, right? Crashes is a verb. Agreed?
Yeah.
Now, if frequently is an adverb, then the next step in our logic must be quite is describing frequently, right?
Hmm.
Now, to
Yeah.
describe an adverb, what do we use? Yes, I think I've received an answer in the chat window. We use another adverb,
Yeah.
right? Perfect. So quite is also an adverb, frequently is also an adverb. Quite is describing frequently, and together they are describing how often the computer crashes. All right. I think we've got this one also. Yes, Sharanya, please go ahead.
Um, Sorry, I just logged in, so I don't know what's happening. There's a problem with the connection.
Yeah, no problem. So I thought you had unmuted to ask a question. That's fine. That's not a problem. Okay. Now the last one goes to. Uh, Wait, who have we not asked till now? Um, Hang on. Abhishek? I think we've not asked Abhishek yet. Abhishek, the last one goes to you. What is the adverb? Oh, okay. Now Abhishek's not getting any sound. Oops. Okay. Yeah, I think we'll really have to look into this. Intermittently, people are facing this issue. Hmm. Okay, so for now, the question goes to Sharanya. Sharanya, could you identify the adverb, please? In the last sentence, she has almost completed the MBA.
Almost completed
Hmm.
or has almost completed?
Ah. So let me ask you a different question. What do you think is the verb over there?
The verb could be has.
Yeah, it is has is a helping verb here. The full
Yeah.
verb is has completed.
Okay.
And the first word that you identified is the adverb, but it is only almost, not almost completed.
Okay.
Okay, good. So almost is telling us the extent to which the completion has happened. Almost completed, not 100%. She has completed would be 100%. Almost is almost there, but not quite, right? Awesome. All right. Abhishek, are you getting audio now? Just let me have a yes in the chat window if you can hear me. Sharanya and Manu have questions. We'll start with Sharanya. Please go ahead.
Can we go over the sentence, my computer crashes quite frequently? In that, what is the adverb? Is it quite frequently or just quiet?
So, quite and frequently are both adverbs over there. Sharanya?
Yes, got it.
So, quite describes frequently, and then they together group up to describe the crashes,
Okay.
right? It's like saying, I eat ice cream very often, right? Now, if you say, I eat ice cream often, often is telling you how often you eat ice cream, right?
Hmm.
And if you say, I eat ice cream very often, very is like intensifying the often. It's saying, oh my God, this is even more regular than we thought,
Okay.
right? So, quite telling us about frequently, and together, quite frequently, telling us about crashes. All right. Now, Manu, I'm sorry, Sharnya, do you have another question? I see your hand raise signal is up. If you have a follow up question, please go ahead.
No, no, that's it. I think that was accidentally put up once I logged in.
Got it. Manu, you had a question. Please go ahead.
I think Sarana asked my question. Just one thing which I wanted to clarify: can a word act as a adjective and an adverb in the same sentence?
In the same position, no. But there are words which are capable of acting both as adverbs and adjectives.
Okay. So
Like
in
if
this
we drew
sentence,
up a. Mhm.
my computer crashes quite frequently. I thought that quite uh, is just an adjective, but then you have the
So, so when you think about whether something is an adjective or not, right?
yeah,
There are two ways you can do this. The first is you could use our test,
yeah,
right? The other is within the context of that sentence, you can ask yourself, what are we describing, right? So
right.
let's start with that. Mm, do you see a noun anywhere in this sentence? I mean, I asked it in a very skeptical way, but there is a noun. I just want to be clear. There is a
Yeah,
noun.
my computer is now.
Yes, my computer is a noun.
Yeah.
Now, is the word quite giving us information about that noun?
Mm, no.
Exactly. We're not saying the computer is quite, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's the
Good.
crashing.
Exactly. So the crashing happens frequently. How frequently? Quite frequently. Right? So if frequently is describing the verb, it's an adverb. And if quite is describing an adverb, it must be an adverb because you can use only adverbs to describe other adverbs.
Right.
You
Got
cannot
it.
use adjectives. Adjectives describe only nouns, right?
Now, got it.
Now, the other way to do this is to, and again, the other way is not as reliable, but it's to check whether quite is even capable of acting as an adjective. To
Yeah. Right.
do that, you would use our adjective test. Our adjective test is just a modified version of the noun test.
Got it.
Basically, the bottom line is can we come up with even one sentence in which quite takes the middle position between an article and a noun, or between a possessive and a noun?
Can we say
Got it.
she is quite friendly?
You can say she is quite friendly, but that is not the adjective test.
Okay.
So when I say she is friendly, what type of word is friendly?
Friendly becomes adverb.
No, friendly is describing her. You're describing she,
It's an
right?
adjective.
Adjective.
Right. So friendly would be an adjective. Now, when you say she is quite friendly, quite is telling you how friendly she is. So, in fact, you're describing an adjective. So, if you want to describe an adjective, it will be an adverb that describes an adjective. Remember, adverbs describe adjectives, other adverbs, verbs, and clauses. Just not nouns. We're not saying she is quite. We're saying she is quite friendly. So let's bottom line this. In no circumstances will we ever be able to come up with any construction in which quite is in the middle of the noun test. It's just not possible. Um, if I try saying something like the quiet man, right? Or the quiet sofa, it'll sound terrible to you. And remember, quiet is different from quiet, right? Quiet as in silent, completely different. Under no circumstances will we ever be able to put quite in between the noun test. This means this word is incapable of acting as an adjective. So, multiple ways to get to the answer, but this is exactly the right process for us to follow. So, with adverbs, adverbs are so tricky that one small rule or approach is not going to be super reliable. Instead, you should have multiple different things that you can use to get a better understanding of what role it's playing within that sentence. And that is what the last 2 points are about. The last point is elimination. Elimination means in case you're not able to categorize a word into one of the other things like noun, verb, adjective, it's most likely an adverb. And the last one is what we were just talking about right now. Do it through understanding. That is the best way to do it. Don't rely on these ly rules. Don't even rely on these how, when. Understand what are we describing? Are we describing a noun? If we are describing a noun, it's an adjective. But if we are describing a verb, it's an adverb. If we are describing an adjective, it's an adverb. If we are describing another adverb, it's an adverb. If we are describing a clause, it's an adverb. That is the way to do this. Of course, this is the sort of thing that we normally do after a lot of practice. In the meantime, please feel free to use one of those slightly shorter, like those shortcuts tests for recognizing, even if I've written over there that they're not super reliable. Feel free to use them, get a feel for it. And once that happens, once you develop that ability to recognize these elements, it'll become second nature to you. All right. Now let's carry on. Now, there are certain things that are not important at this point. As I said, everything on the left hand side is deprioritized. Part of what is deprioritized is this entire group called verbals. Now, let me be very clear, these are important. It's not as if like participles are not important, because participles are a big part of modifiers. But why are we not prioritizing them right now? We are not prioritizing them right now because modifiers is something we'll get to a little bit later. And we will cover all of this during our session on modifiers, right? So we're not going to spend a lot of time right at the beginning on something which is not fundamentally required. So for now, we're going to skip this. Obviously, this classification, this type, and its associated examples will be available to you in your recordings. But the way we'll remember it is, okay, look, there's something that is not super important right now. We are parking it for now. We will discuss it in a session that directly needs it. And that session is modifiers. Now, let's come to the last two. The second last one is called prepositions. Now, there are two things we need to discuss. The first one is most of my students do not have too much time. So I do not ask my students to memorize prepositions. Right? In English, there must be what, 140, 150 prepositions, something like that. I don't remember the exact number, but it's something like that. I don't want you to memorize this. I'm sure your time will be better spent on some other concepts or solving questions. Prepositions, no. Unless you feel it will be easy for you, don't do it. But that said, there are a few prepositions that I do want you to pay attention to. These are the ones that you see in bold text. So I've tried to give you a short list of some prepositions. So if you're super interested and you want to, let's say, maybe go a little bit beyond what we're discussing in the class, please go ahead, memorize all the prepositions that you see over here, right? But the more practical thing to do is memorize the important ones. The important ones, the bold ones, according to, among, because of, between, despite, right? During, in addition to, including, like, to, with. Now, some of these are very common. Like is very common, with is very common, because of is quite common. According to, sometimes you'll see it. Including is the one that I want to talk about. Now, when we get into modifiers, right, when we discuss present participles, etc., we will look at a lot of these ing structures. ing. What I want you to remember right now is whenever you say including or whenever you say according to, right, the rules that apply to ing modifiers will not apply here because these structures are not ing modifiers. They are something else. So in our class, we look at them as prepositions. That's what helps us. It helps us to keep them in a separate category. So that is the point that I wanted to quickly make over here. Whenever you see the words including and according to, you will not try to apply the rules that we will discuss at a later date for ing modifiers. Quick check, is everyone comfortable with this? Awesome. I've received 5 yeses. Very good. Now let's get to the final category, and that is conjunctions. Now, A lot of you would be familiar with many of these conjunctions. I'll try my best to add a few extra points to your understanding. First of all, we should broadly remember three types of conjunctions. The first one is called coordinating conjunctions. The second one is called correlative conjunctions. And the third one is called subordinating conjunctions. Now, these names are not super important, but the patterns are quite important. Now, first of all, let's put everything into context. What are conjunctions? Conjunctions are things that join parts of your sentence together. They're literally used to join things within your sentence. The most common conjunction is and everyone is super comfortable with and because it's you can't avoid it. If you're speaking English, you'll be using and at some point or the other. Now, we know what they do. We know conjunctions join things. Now, there are different types of conjunctions. Conjunctions that are one word conjunctions, right? Now, the context over here is conjunctions that are one word conjunctions are very often used to join parts of the sentence that are at the same level as such, that are equally important. These types of conjunctions are called coordinating conjunctions. That's where the name comes from. They coordinate. Why are they important for us? Because whenever you have things joined at the same level, you need to apply parallelism. Let me put that another way. The question may be about parallelism. Right? I'm not saying that every time you see an and, the question will be testing on parallelism. But that said, parallelism is the single most commonly tested concept in sentence correction. So if you see an and anywhere, you should, without any super conscious effort, you should start checking whether you're joining similar elements or not. But that is at a later point. Quick check. Has anyone here heard this? The fanboys acronym? This mnemonic, it's meant to help us remember coordinating conjunctions. Anyone heard of this? Okay, I've received 2 yeses. Yeah, I think, while studying or elsewhere, any kind of grammar resource, a lot of these sources come up with this fanboys. So F stands for. Yeah, Sharanya. In fact, Sharanya, I'm happy you have not come across fanboys. So there's nothing wrong with fanboys. Fanboys is like a short way to remember these conjunctions. F for, A for and, N for nor, like that. Now, what happens with fanboys, right? So fanboys is fine. I don't have a problem with it. What happens with fanboys is it treats all of these conjunctions as being very similar. But that's technically not true. I mean, if someone is learning English and you want to give them a way to memorize a few conjunctions, fine. I think fanboys is okay. But out of these conjunctions, and, but, and, or have many more of the properties of coordinators than, let's say, so or yet, right? Eh, Or let me put that another way. When we say we are coordinating things, right? The conjunctions which most do that are and, but, and, or. Remember that. Specifically and or, but also to a large extent. But some of these other ones, they don't have the same level of, they don't do the same things like for, so, right? These are not at the same level. They're not equally important coordinators. That's the point I'm trying to make. In fact, for is a conjunction only when it means because. It is not even a conjunction in any other situation. Let me give you an example. I will help him for he is my friend. I will help him for he is my friend. Does the sentence sound okay or does it sound weird? I will help him for he is my friend. Manu saying it sounds weird. Got it. Not common, but sounds okay. Yeah, that's another classification. Yes, I agree. It's not common. It's not common at all. Weird, but it's fine. Got it. That's the point I'm trying to make. The only way to use for as a conjunction is when it means because. That's it. I will help him for he is my friend. I will help him because he is my friend. Anytime you see for outside this, it is not a conjunction. It's as simple as that. Right. So when you look at fanboys, it seems like F for is always like a conjunction. That's not true. Right. Anyway, let me not get into that. This discussion is not relevant to your GMAT, right? The point is, the bottom line for you guys is and, but, and or are very important. You should always watch out for these, especially and. You can never compromise on and. Um, there are a few examples over here. What are these examples? Let's take a quick look at them. The election created confusion and anger. I think maybe these examples are a little too basic because I mean everyone is familiar with and. The trip was short but eventful. These opinions are expressed by or attributed to scientists, just using these very common words. Let's come to the second category. Correlative conjunctions are conjunctions that have more than one word. That's it. In fact, they have two words. So, for example, both and, right? Or either or just as, comma, so. Like if I say the event was both short and eventful, right? The trip was both short and eventful. So what I've done there is I've used a conjunction that has more than one word, both and. Now, what do we need to watch out for? So with and, right, you can choose where to create the list. There are some guidelines for this. We'll discuss it in our preferences class. But with both and, what you want to do is you want to make sure that the part after both and the part after and are parallel. Now, this is just, of course, a quick indicator right now. We will discuss this. We will learn this in our parallelism class. But the point is, there is a slight difference between correlative conjunctions and coordinating conjunctions. Coordinating conjunctions are more flexible. Correlative conjunctions are stricter because they define the starting point and the end point of the conjunction. With a one-word conjunction, you don't have that defined starting point. But with a correlative conjunction, you do. Right now in this session, not super important. What you do need to remember are these examples of coordinating conjunctions and correlative conjunctions. Now, a couple of points about correlative conjunctions. Sometimes people think that, so they combine these structures with idioms. So, for example, I've heard people say that not only has to be followed by but also. Quick check. Has anyone heard this? That not only has to be followed by but also? Okay, I think Sharanya is saying yes. Abhishek is saying not necessary. It can be followed by but and many things. Okay. Okay, so we've got a few opinions over here. Right. So not only does not necessarily have to be followed by but also, and but also does not necessarily have to come with not only. So to be very clear, not only but also is a continuation. If you use but also without not only, this is a contrast. So there is a meaning difference. Not only but also, continuation. But also on its own, contrast. And let's come back to not only but also. Now, I don't have any examples on the screen, but just listen to what I'm saying. Whenever you have not only but also, the also is always expendable. Always. You never need to put it. I mean, if you don't want to, you can put it if you want, right? But the also is always expendable. Always. So if you ever come across a situation in which you're saying not only but without an also, it's absolutely fine. In fact, many times we can even replace the also with something else. For example, you could say as well. So, for example, if you say, I not only play cricket, but play football as well, right? So the also is completely expendable. Either you can drop it or you can replace it with something else, totally up to you, always. But even the but is expendable if we're joining clauses. So if your not only but also is joining clauses, you can drop the but also. The word but, you can leave it out. So basically, what you'll be left with is not only. It probably sounds weird, but that's how it is. When you're joining clauses, so after not only you have a clause, and after the but also you have a clause, you can drop the but also completely. Quick check. Is everyone comfortable with this point? Right, Abhishek. So, for example, let me give you a sentence. Not only does Abhishek play cricket, comma, but he also plays football. You can unmute yourself. Does this sentence sound okay?
Yes, sir, it's okay.
Perfect. Now, the first point is no matter what you do, you can drop the also anytime you want. So, does this sound okay? Not only does Abhishek play cricket, but he plays football. Hello? Or not sure? I'm guessing you're not sure. Okay, so take it from me. You can drop the also. You can drop the also anytime you want in not only but also. But the point we're discussing right now is that, see, you've got a clause over here. Clause is a subject verb combination. On the right hand side, also, you have a clause, subject verb combination. When this happens, when not only, exactly, Manu, when not only but also joins clauses, you can drop the but also. The word but also can be dropped. So you will end up with this. Not only does Abhishek play cricket, he plays football. And the sentence is absolutely fine. Now, don't worry too much about this. This will be covered in multiple places, more specifically in our idiom session. Idioms is much later, so I thought I'd just quickly let you know right now. But let me bottom line this. The point I'm trying to make is just because you are seeing a certain structure here, right, in these examples that I have given you, does not necessarily mean that that is the only possible structure. That is all I want to say. So, one of you said a while back that there are many different structures that you can get with not but, right? So, just keep that in mind. There are many structures over here. Just because I may have listed only two or three of them does not mean that only two or three of them exist. All right. And final thing for the day, subordinating conjunctions. Now, don't look at the examples I've put up there. Instead, I want you to see the bigger picture. Subordinating conjunctions are one way to introduce something called a dependent clause. Now, hang in with me for a second. And remember, our next session is all about clauses. So, whatever we're discussing right now will be discussed in detail over there. But the bigger picture is Whenever you have this thing called a dependent clause, right? Another word for a dependent clause is a subordinate clause. Dependent clause, subordinate clause, the name doesn't matter. The point is that any dependent clause, or let's not just any, all dependent clauses play one of three roles. They can be adverbs, they can act as adjectives, and they can act as nouns. That's it. This is important. So sometimes, people have a vague understanding of dependent clauses. They think, oh, if a clause seems to be dependent on something else, let's call it a dependent clause. That's not exactly true. It has to be dependent on something else, but how do you apply that? What does it mean in practical terms? This is what it means. All dependent clauses at the end of the day have to fall into one of these categories. A dependent clause can be an adverb, it can be an adjective, it can be a noun. It cannot be anything else. Quick check, are we comfortable with this? Okay, I've got 2 yeses, 3 yeses. Sharanya and Abhishek. Abhishek, yes. Sharanya. I'm aware that we've not even discussed clauses yet. We will be doing this in the next session for sure when we discuss phrases, clauses, independent clauses, dependent clauses. But for now, I just want you to memorize this. Yeah, I can fully understand because we've not even, yeah. I just want you to memorize this, rote memorize it. That when you come across the term dependent clause, basically that dependent clause has to be one of three things. It could be an adverb, it could be an adjective, or it could be acting as a noun. In next session, we'll take examples of all of these and we discuss all of these in detail. All right. Now let's take examples of subordinating conjunctions. So I have highlighted a couple of important ones. Again, I don't need you to remember all of these, but the important ones, yes, please. So although, because, right? So that. So all of these introduce dependent clauses, right? All right, now let's back up on that. I think maybe we've gone a little beyond what we should have been discussing in this session. We should have been a little more focused. Fair enough, my fault. We will address this in the next session. For now, let's just round off with a couple of examples. This is a specific example regarding so that. Now, I want you to go through these two examples, but what we want to take away from this is both these examples are correct. Let's read the first one. She decided to take the test online so that she would not have to go to a test center. I am guessing that this sentence sounds okay. This is how we normally use so that. It's the second one that, the second one. Her friends did not turn up for the movie so that she decided to watch it alone. This so that means with the consequence that. Now, this is not. Oh, yeah, that's a good question. You don't know. You don't need the that over there. So the that is optional. In fact, you see that is in brackets over there. Brackets basically means that it's optional. Now, the point I'm trying to make is the second one probably sounds really bad, right? Her friends did not turn up for the movie so that she decided to watch it alone. It's okay. This usage of so that means with the consequence that. Now, remember, this second sentence, not super important to remember. If you want, you can take a look at it later. Such usage has been seen in actual GMAT questions. So it's not like we're just studying something for the heck of it. No, we're studying it because it's been seen in real GMAT questions. But it comes up very, very rarely. Like whenever you come across these little idiomatic issues, right? There's so many idiomatic issues. Each of them has a very low probability of coming up. So deprioritize it. Don't worry too much about it. Remember that so that is a subordinating conjunction. Beyond that, anything, all of these things can be handled later also. These are not fundamental things. These are just small, small, finer points. Now, final thing for, okay, before we move on, quick check. Is everyone Manu, please go ahead. Yes.
In the second sentence on the GMAT,
Hmm.
for example, if we get answer choices, will
Hmm.
we get two answer choices where we'll have the word so that and without the word that?
I doubt it. So I've never seen anything like that, right? And just purely from a technical perspective, right? Have you heard of something called ellipsis? Ellipsis
Yes.
means, yeah, ellipsis means that certain words are being understood away, as in they're not being explicitly stated or included in the sentence. They're just understood to be there, right? Now, when we say so that, when we say so that, but we don't say that, and we just say so, right? Like, for example, she decided to take the GMAT test online, so she would not have to, right?
Yeah.
So, what have I done? I've removed the that from there. Now, when I say I remove the that, I'm not really removing the that. I'm just taking it away from the visual representation of the sentence. In other words, I am expecting the reader to understand that the that is there.
Okay.
Or, in other words, this is ellipsis. What does ellipsis mean? It means the word is there, but it's not physically there.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not sure you've understood, but let me put this another way. Whenever you say so, right, without a that, and you mean this in this kind of sense, right, the
Yeah.
that can be dropped. But dropped does not mean that you are literally removing it. You are just physically removing it. The structure is the same. Okay, so ellipsis just means that you are understanding away certain words. Understanding away means you expect your reader to fill in the blanks,
Mm.
right? So when we are removing the that, it just means that the that is there, but it's just not explicitly there in the sentence, physically there. Okay, awesome. So yes, the answer to your question is you can drop the that. You can use the sentence. You can use so in the sentence without the that, without a that as well. And frankly speaking, that is why I don't expect the GMAT to test us on this, because technically speaking, a sentence that uses so that and a sentence that uses so are actually the same sentence, literally speaking, the same sentence, right? But anyway, that level of analysis, I've never seen the GMAT ask anyone for. So don't worry about it. But the answer to your question is yes, you can use a so without the that also. All right. Manu, does that answer your question? Amazing. All right. Now we're at the last step for today's class. Now, in today's class, what did we discuss? We discussed certain things that we have to get comfortable with as soon as possible. What were those things? Nouns, adjectives, verbs. Nouns and verbs, especially, right? Because they form the, like, if you put a subject and verb together, that's like the building block of, like, the most basic building block of a sentence. So, nouns, adjectives, verbs. We must get comfortable with them as soon as possible. Other things, adverbs, prepositions, verbals, participles, infinitives, conjunctions, all of these things can come in step by step. Once we go through more sessions, we'll see them more often. We'll get more comfortable with them. They're not immediately required. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to practice identifying nouns, adjectives, and verbs. And we're going to do that in a couple of sentences. Obviously, you guys will have many more sentence correction questions that you can apply this to. But we have a couple of sentences, and we're going to finish the class by identifying nouns, adjectives, and verbs within the sentences. Please go ahead. The first sentence. hang on. Let's do this in a different way. I will identify a word and I'll ask you to classify that sentence. Uh, Classify that word. Hiked. Your first word is hiked. Okay. Okay, I've got a couple of answers over here. Manu saying it's a main verb. Abhishek is saying it's a verb. Absolutely correct. Okay. Now, your next word is interest. Okay, I'm seeing two different answers over here. Oh, okay. Sharanya is also going for adjective. So, guys, um, I would say it's acting as an adjective. So, I think all of you are right, right? I do think that all of you are right. But in this case, I think it's better to say that it's acting as an adjective. And the reason for that is we are trying to describe the word rate. So if you think about, so remember, it's is a possessive. After a possessive, you would definitely get a noun eventually, right? So what we're saying is they hiked, the bank hiked. What does hiked mean over here? Increased. The bank increased its rate. Now, which rate? The benchmark rate. And which benchmark rate? The interest rate. So what type of rate are we talking about? We're talking about an interest rate, right? Quick check. Is everyone comfortable with this? Because we got different answers. Just quickly checking. Are we comfortable calling it? Nice. Okay. Now your next word is oh. Okay. So we've not discussed this in today's class. Let me do this one for you. Your next word is contain. This one I will do for you. Contain is something called the infinitive form of a verb. So you have something called a full infinitive. A full infinitive is 2 plus the plain form. Plain means the simplest form of a verb. So what you see over here, to contain, right? To contain is called a full infinitive. We didn't do it in today's class because we don't like remembering more terms than we have to. So you don't have to remember these terms, full infinitive and all that, not necessary. But this contain that you see, this is called the infinitive form. Infinitive form is the simplest form. What are the other forms of contain? Contains, containing, contained, right? But the simplest form is contain. All right. Your next word is staggering. ING. Okay, I've received a couple of answers. Adjective, adjective. Ankit, have you changed your... Oh, you've changed your answer. Understood. Now, in this case, Sharanya saying adjective, Abhishek. Yeah, Ankit, in this case, it'll be an adjective. In fact, staggering is almost always an adjective. I think the noun that you're looking for is high. Like what you're saying is something rose to a high. And which high? Like a staggering 20-year high. Right? Staggering. Staggering means shocking. Good. All right. Now, your next word is most. Okay, it's hard to read the sentence with that. My apologies. I'll remove whatever I've written. But yeah, the word is most. I'll point to it. Most. Oh, I've already got answers. Adverb, 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 adjective, adverb. Okay. Guys, it's an adverb. The country's most vulnerable, right? Now, if you think about what the word vulnerable is, it's an adjective. Vulnerable is an adjective, but most is an adverb. So most is like the highest degree of vulnerability. That's what it's doing over here. Quick check. Manu, comfortable with that or not? Perfect. Good. Now the next word is effects. Okay, noun, adverb, noun. Okay. Sharanya, over here, this will be a noun. Do you remember the noun test? A and the, right? If you can say the effects. Oh, hang on. Please unmute yourself. Walk me through why you thought it was an adverb. Then maybe I'll be able to give you better advice.
I thought effects because it is kind of describing what is happening to the word global warming.
Oh, that's actually not bad. That's actually a very good thing to do. So what you are looking at is actually a slightly larger part of the sentence.
Okay.
What you are looking at is this: to plus the effects. Now this entire structure, right? To plus the effects.
Yeah.
So to over here. Oh, remember this is not an infinitive. This is a preposition. Not important, but the point is, to the effects is what is together referring to vulnerable,
Okay.
right? But inside to the effects is a noun,
Okay.
right? And more generally, if you see anything, right, that is after a article, right, after an article, it has to be a noun.
Okay. Got it.
So basically, after articles, you have to get nouns eventually. There's no other option. Awesome.
Okay.
Now the next word is press. I've received 3 answers. Press. Okay. Sharanya, not sure?
Yes, I'm not sure about it.
Fair enough. So the way we should read the sentence is, some countries, right? The countries who are most vulnerable, those countries press for more stringent measures. Press over here is a verb. It means that they push for it. Like, for example, if you say, I pushed to include him in the committee. Pushed means I made an effort. I pressed for it. Or think about a different meaning of press. Like if you say, I pressed the button, right? I pressed the button. Press over there would be clearly a verb, Sharanya.
Yes.
Right. So I pressed a button. This is like that, except the meaning of press is different. This press means you like insisted on it, you pushed for it. Right? That's what it means. You put pressure on other people for it. That's what press means over here. Quick check, better or not sure?
Better. Yes.
Awesome. All right. Now your next word is reduce. Okay, good. Good, good. Good. Uh, I thought for a second that maybe we would call it a verb, but you guys correctly recognized that this is to plus the simplest form of the verb. So this reduce is not a verb over here. This is the simplest form, and the name we give that simplest form is infinitive. In fact, because in our classes we don't normally get into bare infinitive, full infinitive. Normally we just call it infinitive. So we can in our classes we even call to reduce an infinitive, although the correct way to do this would be to reduce as a full infinitive and reduce as a bare infinitive. So I see that some of you mentioned infinitive. Ankit's mentioned bare infinitive. That's correct. So Sharanya, this is a part that we slightly skipped over because we will be coming across this later on as well. Whenever you see to plus the simplest form of a verb, right? We could call that the infinitive. That's the name of the structure. So this combination of to plus the simplest form of the verb, that combination's name is infinitive. Better? Excellent. So some of this is going to need memorization, and that is what I want you guys to do in the coming few days. Now, I'm very sorry. I just looked at the time. It's already 11:22. Please go ahead in case you need to get on with your day. I will see you in the coming week. But before you do that, I do need you to start practicing this. So, what I want you to do is whenever you come across reading material, right, I want you to make an active effort to classify or to recognize nouns, adjectives, and verbs. In the next session, what we want to do is make sure that we finish off our discussion on clauses, dependent clauses, independent clauses, phrases, and we get started with punctuation and or parallelism depending on how much time we have. So before that happens, I'd like you guys to be comfortable with the basic categories, nouns, adjectives, and verbs, for sure, as in you must be very comfortable. Now, in case you are looking at some sentence correction questions and you're not able to identify what the noun is or which word is a verb, or you're not sure what role a word is playing, please write it down and book a doubt session. So now, from now on, please remember, during the week, you have access to doubt sessions if you need them. If it's just a one word or just like a quick question you have, you don't need to book a doubt session. You can just send it to me on WhatsApp or just call me up. That is also okay. But the point is, whatever doubts you have, they need to be clarified before we hit the next session. Now, from my side, I'll also be sending you guys a little bit of homework for OG questions. So, Ankit, different people have different opinions. Some people are okay doing non-official questions. My Some people say we should do only official questions. My advice is somewhere in the middle. We should prefer official questions. And if we absolutely have to, then maybe we can do non official questions. But I always tend to prioritize official questions. Would you agree or not sure? Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So, yeah, if you're solving your official questions, or maybe if you're solving other questions, I want you to start identifying different types of words. So the point is, any doubts, don't let them collect and collect and collect, right? Get them clarified. If you have lots of doubts, doubt session. If you have a few doubts, just reach out, right? But the point is, get them clarified. That's all I'm saying. Um, so on that note, a very happy Sunday to all of you, and a very happy Independence Day tomorrow to all of you. Can we book doubt sessions for OG questions after solving some? Yes. But what I would recommend is let's do a few, one or two more theory sessions so that we're absolutely on the same page when it comes to the terminology. But yes, absolutely. I'd be happy to help you with OG questions as well. Okay. Excellent. And of course, so I was just wishing all of you a happy Independence Day in advance. Um, right. So I'll be sending across a few SC questions. I don't send like a huge amount of practice work. So I'll be sending a few to you. Don't worry about that. And yeah, the final point I wanted to make is I will be staying back. So if any of you have doubts about what we discussed today, or you just want to look at different parts of the presentation, just go over them again, I can be here for that. So if you guys would like to carry on with your day, thank you for attending and have a great day. Otherwise, if you'd like to stay back, I'm here for that as well.